or is dependent on the difficulty of your lane. So if you have complete free farm in the first 10 minutes of the game, you should have at least 60 CS. In my average games, I get somewhere around 45 to 35 CS. And then you have those games where the other team sends an aggressive tri-lane or a really difficult dual lane. Just try and get what you can without dying. If your pull isn't blocked, your support should pull the creeps, and then you should be able to last hit everything under the tower. If you can't hit these creep scores and you can't last hit under the tower, you need to go in single player and practice. How much CS should you have at 20 minutes in the game? Generally speaking, I'm looking to add 40 to 60 CS to my 10-minute creep score, so I might get as high as 120 CS if I'm having a really good game. So how exactly do I go about getting these creep scores? Well, it's a good idea to hit the jungle multiple times throughout the game. You should also teleport around the map to where the most farm is. Early game map movement is pretty important if you want to be hard to gank, because if you just stay in one lane all game, you're going to be an easy target. As the carry player, you will be the most ganked hero on your team, so you should always have some sort of plan for escaping a gank. If you don't have a plan, you probably shouldn't be where you are. Teleporting out would be the easiest way to escape from a gank, so always carry a TP scroll. But most of the time, it's not going to be that easy. You should familiarize yourself with juking spots so when you get ganked, you can make the enemy team waste time and hopefully they will get stuck in a bad situation. Do everything in your power to live, and do everything you can to weaken or stall the enemies. Even if your allies don't arrive on time and you die, at least your allies can get some revenge kills. If you're spending time in the jungle, you should pay attention to the in-game time to stack camps when possible. Every little bit counts. The pull timing is between 52 and 53 in-game seconds. On a similar note, some carry heroes benefit from the item called Helm of the Dominator. You can use it to dominate a neutral creep, and then use that creep to stack ancients. This will give you a place to quickly farm while your teammates can take over your lane to catch up in farm and experience. You can generally get around 4 to 5 stacks, and it should take you less than a minute to farm. The best heroes to do this with are obviously heroes with some sort of splash damage. When new players attempt to make the switch from support to carry, the biggest mistake they make is they try to help the team too much in the early game. You can help your team more by farming that core item in a timely manner. Why should you risk a death and getting your team even further behind when you can play it safe and get that extra farm? The only time I would help my team in the early game is when I see a safe and guaranteed kill. When this opportunity arises, you are obligated to your team to get those kills. By getting these hero kills, you and your teammates will gain extra gold and experience and an opportunity to push towers and gain map control. Once you finish your core items, you should be looking to participate in the majority of team fights. You should constantly look around the map and assess the various situations your teammates are getting into. It's really not that hard to farm while looking around the map. Honestly, I just begin to auto-attack once I finish a few items. In my opinion, during the mid-game, it's more important to watch everything that happens on the map than it is to get 100% of the last hits. The goal is to collect as much information as you can so you can make the right decisions. You're looking for information like what kind of items do your enemies have, which spells are on cooldown, where are they on the map, and so on and so forth. Basically, you're trying to grasp an understanding of the enemy's capabilities. What separates the top carry players from each other is not farming ability. It's their ability to make the right decisions. And how can you make the right decisions if you're not paying attention to everything that's happening on the map? You need to develop an acute awareness to the map to become better at this game. Sometimes the right decision is just to continue farming rather than helping your team. You'll learn through experience which team fights are favorable to engage in and which team fights are best to avoid. Let's talk about buybacks. When should you buy back? Does your team need your help, and if they do, can you get there soon enough to be useful? Well, that's a problem for this TA because his team is dead. You should also buy back when your base needs to be defended. Just don't be that guy who dies and then buys back to farm a lane. Buyback has a very long cooldown, so you should save it for when you really need it. If you're playing in a close game, you should begin to save your money for a buyback in the later parts of the game. The enemy team will blow most of their big spells to kill you, making your return to the battlefield very hard to deal with. If you can manage to survive and win the team fight with a buyback, many times you will regain a majority of the cost of the buyback. When calculating your buyback cost, remember that you lose unreliable gold on death. You can lose up to 750 gold, which is dependent on your hero level. If you have enough reliable gold to cover your buyback cost, then you don't have to worry about gold loss on death. To find out what your buyback cost is, you can hover your mouse over your current gold. Now, an extremely important part about playing carry is spell dodging or negation. The key to spell dodging or negating is understanding the limitations of casting those spells. Once you are aware of these limitations, hopefully you will become more sensitive to it and it will give you enough time to react. So what are these limitations to spell casting? Some spells, such as Ravage, have travel time. Most spells have a cast animation. Most spells have a cast range, which means they cannot cast that spell until they are in range of your hero. And finally, you have to be facing the direction you want to cast most spells. So adding turn rate into the equation means you have that much more time to react. So combining all of these limitations should definitely mean you have enough time to react to these spells. The act of someone turning around to face you should raise the first flag. The act of them getting close enough should raise the second flag. If you cast your BKB at this point, this would be called a safe play. But you can play it riskier with much more reward by waiting for a third confirmation, which is the hero starting their cast animation or if the projectile is already traveling through the air. And then there's just good old game sense. What would you do if you were the enemy hero? If you were the enemy hero, when would be the best time to cast those spells? Anticipating your opponent's actions means you will obviously react quicker than if you were caught by surprise. It will also help you save your spells for the right moment, unlike this bounty hunter. Teamfights can be completely decided by BKB timing, so you have to learn how to do this if you want to get better at carrying. And then comes the question of who do you target in teamfights? This is a pretty situational question and you'll probably get a different answer depending on who you ask. But if I'm having an easy game, I'm just going to attack the person who is easiest to kill, and most of the time that's just going to be the hero that is closest to me. Other times, it's going to be the hero who dies in 2 hits, which is most likely the support hero. But if the game is close, then there probably is a priority list. A lot of times for me, that's going to be a hero that has a stun that goes through magic immunity. An example being this Enigma. Other times, it's going to be the hero who has the highest damage output, which is often the enemy carry hero. Now, your positioning in teamfights is highly dependent on how much range you have. Melee heroes have less freedom than ranged heroes, but there are a few tricks that you can use to try and negate this inequality. The problem with melee heroes is that if they want to target a hero in the back lines, they're going to get surrounded and then focus like we just saw with this Chaos Knight. So what is this trick I was talking about? Well, it's a trick that's been used for thousands of years in Warfare called flanking. The Dire team has been sieging the Radiant team's base for about a minute now, and all the Dire heroes are pretty much perfectly positioned, making it impossible for the Radiant team to engage. So this Chaos Knight says, fuck this, and goes around from the side and grabs the Enigma by surprise. We get some nice coordination from the rest of the Radiant team, and the Dire team crumbles. And what just happened here is also the essence behind smoke ganking. You're trying to catch the enemy team by surprise, you're trying to catch them out of position, and you try to gain the upper hand in terms of things such as high ground and vision. But you don't have to go around doing fancy stuff like this in most of your games. Most of the time as a melee hero, I'll generally just attack the closest target. And if there are 2 targets that are equally close, then you just target the one who will die in less hits. There are times where you should target a hero that you can kill by yourself and let your allies clean up the other heroes, but you'll learn this with time. Anyways, for ranged heroes, it's quite simple. You just sit in the back and you hit the guy who is easiest to kill. Keep a few of your allied heroes in front of you, let the support heroes do their thing, and you just keep right clicking. Now the hard part about this is knowing when to base dive to kill heroes, and knowing when to hit buildings. In a pub stomp like this game, you can dive into the fountain and it wouldn't matter. But in a close game, it's going to be situational. But if you're confused about what to do, just hit the buildings. You don't win games by killing heroes. You win the game by killing the throne or the tree. One more thing about targeting and positioning. Do not, I repeat, do not chase a low hit point hero unless you're absolutely sure that you can get the kill within a reasonable amount of time. An important strategy you can do in a losing game is split pushing or counter pushing by yourself. This will help you get that extra farm, and sometimes it can help you stall the game long enough for the playing field to even out. In a lot of base and tower defenses, as the carry player, I will be the last one to arrive unless I have an important AoE ability like Chronosphere. And as you can see here, as a melee carry, you're going to target the easiest to kill person first. In this case, it's the Juggernaut because not only did he have the lowest amount of hit points out of the Dire heroes, he is also the closest target. And as I've said over and over now, in many situations, the easiest to kill hero is the hero that is closest to you. The last tip I can give you is that once you finish your core items or if you have a blatant hero advantage, don't let people come into your lane to farm. Chase them away and make their life difficult, but at the same time it could easily be bait, so you should always have an escape plan, whether it's using your abilities or just timing a teleport after stuns have been used. Now the last thing I want to talk about are item builds and skill builds. You can't just buy the same items every game and expect to win. You have to adjust your item builds and sometimes even your skill build depending on which heroes you're playing against and which heroes you're allied with. You still want to buy your core items no matter what heroes are in the game. It's the items that you buy after your core items that can decide whether you win or lose. Sometimes you need the armor and attack speed a Saw Curios gives you. Maybe you need the true strike that Monkey King Bar offers. Perhaps you need the evasion and active ability of Heaven's Halberd. The bottom line is that your item choices should be logical and serve a purpose. Now, there are some things I haven't gone over, but I feel that there are enough resources out there for these topics. Hopefully this has covered everything that needs to be talked about, so let's review what we've learned. As a melee carry hero, you're going to target the easiest to kill hero first, and many times this is based on which hero is closest to you. You are not going to needlessly chase low hit point heroes unless you are absolutely sure you can get the kill. When you're not sure that you can get the kill, you're going to switch to the next closest target to maximize your damage output. Anytime there's a hero that is very close to you and is even easier to kill than the current hero you are targeting, you are going to switch targets unless you are targeting a very high priority hero. When you have a blatant hero or farm advantage, do not let enemy heroes come into your lane to farm. Make their life difficult and chase them away. Sometimes you will even get a kill. You should always be looking at the minimap and note the positioning of enemy heroes. Don't forget to actually look around the map to assess the various situations your team is getting into. When you see an opportunity to get hero kills, you have an obligation to your teammates to be at that team fight. This nets you and your teammates additional golden experience that none of you would have received if you weren't present at the team fight. It also gives your team an opportunity to push towers and gain map control. Be humble and realize that you didn't win this game by yourself. Behind every great carry player, there is an even greater support player creating space for you to farm. This is Professor Fierce signing out, and thank you for watching my video. If you're looking to buy a new mouse, consider supporting me by buying the SteelSeries Dota 2 mouse and mousepad using my Amazon affiliate link. The link will be in the description below.